This is Wakefield Council as an OrgVue, which is not your traditional structure, perhaps, but it's very useful just to be able to look at the organisation in different ways. And Rupert shared with you a little bit about that, about how you can map different dimensions or different sets of data. So this is what our council looks like, probably from outer space, I suppose. Now, I can try and work this. Just so you're aware, this represents schools. This will be primary schools, and this will be secondary schools, and this is about the number of employees. So local authority, we are currently still the employer of schools-based staff and teachers. And the centre's somewhere over here, and that is interesting for me because able to show visually how organisations work and maybe some of the challenges about the connectivity. Being able to map that, and I could also through this system map, say, I don't know, pay levels against that, sickness levels, postcodes for where people are. We're currently planning travel to work plans. So if I can map where people are based on where their home address is, which I know because of payroll, against where their workplace is, that can help with all sorts of things around travel plans. So I think the useful thing for me about OrgVue is it brings together a whole kaleidoscope of data that allows us to create really useful information, identify that gap that Rupert described, and then plan appropriate action. So there's some immediate benefits for me about mapping our current establishment. As you might imagine, as we are changing, I need to be able to keep on top of where we are. Across the whole council at the moment, I think we've got 30 odd different restructures going on. And just trying to actually understand who's responsible for what, where they are, who's still here. We've just had quite a lot of people leave, is really important. And currently, for me to map that establishment can take hours of my team's time. So by the time we map it, it's changed again. One of the benefits of OrgVue is it's real time. And it's there, and it's at your fingertips, and we can enable managers to use it. You know, and one of the things for me about mapping establishment, I showed you schools. A lot of schools are becoming academies. By becoming academies, it means they are no longer employees of Wakefield Council. And therefore, that has an impact on how our overheads are structured, how we need to organise our systems. You know, I probably won't be running their payroll anymore, but they may still want a link and a support. So really important in some of the organisational development and being able to look ahead. The other thing that I really want to talk about here was about, as I said, management spans of control. Understanding where the different levels of management are, how they're performing, how those managers are in place, how long are they in place, succession planning, are they likely to retire in the next 5 years, whatever that may be. It allows me to map that in many different ways. The other thing it allows me to do is to analyse some of the impacts of change. One of the duties on public sector and certainly local government is around being able to show that we've done equality impact assessments on all of the decisions that are being made before they're made. That's on services, but also changes to our structure. And we have to publish that. It's about transparency. It's about ensuring that you as citizens feel that you're getting good value for money and you can hold us to account. And we have to demonstrate it. Again, currently, that would take hours and hours of work and isn't necessarily real time. So something like OrgVue is really useful for me just in some of those basic statutory duties that we have to deliver. It's this sort of concept of real-time, I've put reporting there as well, but I really think it's modelling. And that for me is the powerful bit of this tool. Doing things and being able to do the what-if question, being very easily able to manipulate some of the data that we hold without necessarily affecting my payroll system because people still need paying. So really quite a useful tool. I want to look at something really specific as well, just to give a demonstration of how we've already used this very quickly, and it's actually led to some efficiencies in HR. This is sickness absence. It's an old chestnut for HR, and it should be an old chestnut for managers, but we still have that debate, certainly in my organisation, about who's responsible for attendance, which is a nicer way of putting it. But for me, I still need to have an overview. I'm still expected to report to our elected members, the councillors, and to my corporate management team about where there are issues around sickness. I need to be able to show that we're reducing sickness absence and so on. That's a fairly traditional way of showing, at least looking at where are the big areas of sickness in the council. What OrgVue allows me to do very, very quickly is to actually get beneath that data and look at it in a different way. And again, just for context, to take that information out of my current HR system will probably take a member of staff 3.5 days. With about 2 minutes training, I was able to produce that graph and about 5 or 6 others to actually allow me to learn something that I didn't know I'd had, and that took all of 5 minutes. And the example is that we have, in adult social care, we were looking at sickness levels. There's been a tradition of high levels of sickness. And you think, well, okay, it'll be mental health issues, it will be musculoskeletal issues, it'll be this, that, the other, the usual. But when we also got under it, I was able to take it using OrgVue straight down to an actual establishment. It was an older people's home. And we realised that actually the issues in there were not about stress or bad backs. It was actually about the fact that there was a high level of dermatitis. And that was a really useful, very powerful, immediate learning for me. In fact, I think I sort of went, oh, didn't know that. And that's allowed me to also to direct my HR resources. So the health and safety team have been able to go and look and make sure we haven't got some issues around COSH. We can provide PPE. We can actually talk to the manager about how do we avoid it rather than deliver it. So a real impact straight away, that just playing with this data in a different way. Heard a lot today about the role of managers, and there was some interesting questions earlier on this early afternoon about, is it HR's job or manager's job? I'm very clear, and having been a manager, it's how I ended up in HR, is that this is about engaging managers, and it's an ongoing challenge, especially when you've got less of them, and especially when they're not feeling particularly motivated, bear in mind our current climate, or engaged, is about how, for me, one of the critical sort of organisational development benefits of OrgVue is that I can see how it's going to help me to enable managers. Enable them, support them, challenge them if necessary, but actually help them to identify opportunities where they can improve performance. Back to the equation at the beginning that Rupert shared around process, around people, about performance. By being able to map it in a very visual, very engaging way, very, very quickly. My HR business partners that work very closely with individual services, being able to sit there and actually have a discussion about what the data is telling us, rather than is that data right, and then going back and waiting another week till we get a second iteration of the same data, is exceedingly powerful in terms of engaging with the business. And that for me is really, really exciting about how we put HR absolutely at the heart of supporting the business. So that for me is my real benefit. That's my measure. So I'm galloping through this, but I want us to be able to have questions. And I wish we had much longer, and I could talk to you about all of this for quite a while. But I need to sum up, really. And I really see OrgVue as supporting HR take its rightful place and its proper place and fulfill its duty in supporting my organisation to change and to meet the challenges it faces. I think the role of HR is really critical, and it is the time to step up. And the gentleman this morning sort of said, take your place and don't wait to be asked. And that's certainly how I see it. And I think OrgVue will help with that. It's how we're going to add value. And that for me is about not just the HR management data, which I've focused on there, but it's also about how it is an organisational development tool. And fundamentally, that's where we will add real value, by absolutely being able to manipulate data in a really coherent way for people, really flexibly, to actually enable them to understand how the people are linking to the processes that are delivering the services, so that we can identify different ways of doing things very quickly. And that for me is why it's a very great organisational design and development tool. It doesn't mean that the work stops there, but it will engage people. So I'm not sure how much more I can effuse about it. It's very easy to use. It's something quite unique, and I'm really delighted to be working with Rupert and the team on this, and being able to tell you a little bit about it today as well.